everybody, we're going to work on scoring and slipping today and joining pieces of clay. Here's a finished mug with a handle, its walls for the container, and the base. You should, in order to be ready to score and slip your parts of your mug together, you should have the base, you should have a handle, and your walls that were created with a slab roller. All of these should be leather hard, not plastic. Plastic is clay that's really wet and sticky. Leather hard clay is still moist, cold, wet, pliable, and able to work with, but it holds its form. If it was plastic, this would be kind of flopping around and wouldn't be holding its form. And the same with the handle. The handle is able to keep its form because it is leather hard. The clay is a little bit more set up than plastic. So now I'm ready to work with it. I do need my tools. Pretty much these are the tools I have each time I'm working with clay. Metal scraper, blue rib, needle tool, wooden modeling tool, sponge, and slip. Slip is the potter's glue, which is a consistency of mayonnaise or whipped cream. It's clay and water mushed up together to create a sticky substance that will help join the pieces of clay. First, I'm going to join my base. I'm going to create my score marks, which are my crisscross marks around the edge of the circle. If I were to look at the base of my mug, I'm going to kind of just get an eyeball and just make sure things are kind of lining up. And I can see that's where it's going to go and attach. I'm first going to make score marks on the rim of my mug. And I'm going to go one direction, a hatch mark one direction all the way around. Essentially, I'm creating, kind of roughing up the clay surface to create hinges so the clay goes together along with some slip. So I completely go around the rim of the base, the edge of the slab of the wall. And I'll go one direction with my lines, and I'll go back the other direction on top of those lines. So I create a crosshatch, kind of like a tic-tac-toe board, but a cross-hatching of the lines so they're overlapping and creating a roughed up surface. You can see there. I would then also do it on the outer edge of my base. I would go down in one direction, creating my cross-hatching marks on the edge. It's going to line up. And I'm essentially creating marks in the clay to rough it up to create hinges that go together with slip, and they stick together in order to make those pieces of clay become one. So I go back the other way and create my scoring marks, my crosshatch marks on the bottom edge there. I then have my two marks scored, my two pieces, my base and the area where I'm going to attach the base scored. And then I'm going to come in with my slip. You can use a wooden modeling tool to pick it up and tap it into the hinge marks. I like to also use my finger. So either way, I don't want to smooth out my crosshatch marks, my scoring marks completely, because those are the hinges that are going to help seal the clay together. I want to make sure it's smushed nice and well together so it does not pop off or create a little air pocket in there. So I've padded slip into there. I'm also going to pad slip into here. So I score on both sides. I pad slip into my other side. Sometimes I have to add water to the slip if it's a little bit too set up, but I want it to be a nice kind of gooey part. So I've scored, I've slipped, and now I need to smush. So I'm going to turn this. This is the top edge down. I am going to then smush it to here and see how that kind of oozes the slip out. But I want to make sure there's not an air pocket in there. So I've scored, I've slipped, I've smushed, and put my leather hard pieces of clay together. Now I need to smooth out this seam. Looks like two pieces of clay still. I want to come back with my wooden modeling tool and smooth together the seam. If it's a big gap, I could fill it in with a coil, but I'm essentially just going to press, take the clay a little bit down from the base and a little bit up from the walls and fill in that seam. So it's no longer two pieces of clay. So I'm going to go take some down from the base, some up from the walls, and keep my finger so it's kind of smushing it down and join my pieces of clay. Now if your base is really small, you might have to put a coil to fill in between. If this is a big indentation, you could put a coil in there to fill it in. But right now I am just taking some from the base and taking some from the walls and getting rid of that seam. Kind of being mindful of my texture down there so I'm not losing my texture if I've already added texture to my walls. I can also then come and take this side of the tool and then come back and smooth my seams. I need to keep taking some up and down so the clay fills in and it looks like it's one piece of clay. And then I know it's really joined. I'm also going to clean it up. I'll have a chance to clean it up more later. But I'm going through this process right now so you know what to do when you get to your seat. So I'm just taking a little clay upwards from my walls. I'm taking a little down from the base. And then I'm coming back and smoothing it out. I can also use my blue rib to paddle and compress. I can even round this edge just a little bit and paddle and compress the base. Now this clay, my base is a little bit softer than my walls, I can tell. So I just want to be aware of that. And I keep smoothing this so now it looks like it's one piece of clay. I would like to do a little more cleanup with my metal scraper, smoothing that and smoothing the base, rubbing off any little unintentional pieces of clay and getting it really nice and cleaned up. We'll come back to that because I want to show you how to also add your handle. Because I need to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to turn it right side up and then look at my handle. Here I could attach my handle. One thing, if you noticed, I gave a little angle of a cut to that so it sits nicely next to the walls. I will cut a little bit of an angle with my needle tool here. So if you see, that is a diagonal cut right there, and then it will nestle right nice into the wall. So I want to kind of look and see which side, depending on where my texture or carving is. I'm going to cut this as a little more of an angle there. So I trim it down, and now it has a nice angle. Get rid of that extra. I will put my handle about here. This is where my hand will go in, and I will hold it here. I am going to make a little mark up and down as to where the placement. I'm going to put a line above and below, a line above and below, so I can see. You might not be able to see. There it is. See my line above and below where the handle I'll score right in there to attach my handle. So I'll make my scoring marks. I go one direction and I come back and crosshatch, and I have my marks down here, and there's my scoring marks. I will come and score here. So I score on the mug wall. I will also score on the end of the handle. Score on the end of my handle. So now I have score marks on both, and now I will come and pad my slip in. And I have slip, and I will add slip. So I score, I slip, and here comes the squish. I want to make sure this is lined up. Sometimes people attach the top of the handle and the bottom of the handle not directly in a line, and it looks a little offset. So I'm supporting my hand, the inside of the wall. I'm pushing the inside of the wall as I'm pressing the handle to it. And the same down here, I'm going to press the inside of the wall to the handle and squish that in. Okay. Notice my handle, nice and straight as it comes down there. Okay, so I've got my handle lined up. Okay, get my handle sitting nice and straight. I then want to come in and clean up the seams with my wooden modeling tool. I'm going to hold it and press it in a little bit more as I am coming around to clean up my seams and join my handle. Now often I make a little tiny coil, the littlest coil ever, just rolled in my hands, and I do pad some slip on it, and I get it nice and sticky, and put the slip, and just where there's a little bit of a gap right in there, I put a little teeny coil in there with slip underneath, and then I take my wooden modeling tool, you can see that in there, and I hold my handle and I take and kind of fill in that seam, and I take half towards the handle, half towards the mug, and I fill that in, and then I clean it up so it's not so obvious, and that fills in that space. I do need to get rid of that seam at the bottom of my handle, and so I blend this clay. I can use the edge of my finger, my wooden modeling tool, and clean up around the seams in order to really join that handle. So now it's looking smooth together. I do need to work on those seams there. So I go around and blend a little bit of the handle down into the mug so it's become one. And it looks like it's one piece of clay. So I can add that little teeny coil in there that helps join that, and I'm going to press that together. I do take the teeniest little coil, like you even just roll it in between my hands like that, and I do want to put a little slip on it, put slip on my coil, and I use it as a little bit of a joining method to then take some up, some down, and smooth it together so we don't see the edges of that anymore. It's kind of like a really thick slip, which helps fill in that spot. So now we don't see that seam. And then I can also come in and hold my handle and smooth it with a metal scraper. I can smooth the edges a little bit more and clean it up. Clean up my handle and my rim of my mug, wrap the sponge around, and clean it up nicely. That is generally how you score and slip and add your handle to your mug. We can talk more about cleanup and decoration, but we scored, we slipped, we smushed, we cleaned up the seams, and make it all look like it's one piece of clay. Thank you. Good luck with your mug.